Yeah. You and Lyndon are right on the edge.
There we go.
The green light is still on? Yeah. Okay.
Still recording.
Green light's. Oh, no.
Wait on Which one is it?
I had the right one done this time. How about that?
So I guess that'll be the switch.
Good, how about you?
Obviously, we'll get those discussions.
This session will now be in order. Well, can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Carter will present his person to pray.
Pastor Jason Mullins, First Baptist Church.
Let's pray. Father God, Lord, we thank you for another day of life that you've given us, God, the blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day. God, Lord, we just pray that everything that's done in this meeting today will be glorifying to you. Father God, every decision that's made, God, we just pray that you would give wisdom, to those that served on the board, God, Lord, for the citizens here in town, God, that you just bless them. Lord, we just pray that you just go with us, Lord, lead us, guide us, and direct us. We'll give you the praise and the glory for it. For your name we pray. Amen.
You may be seated. Without objection, I will go ahead and give a plaque to the Central High School girls basketball team. Y'all want to come up here? Says presented by the town of Pound, Virginia, to the Central Lady Warriors basketball team in recognition of the dedication and teamwork for their consecutive championships. We will have it. Y'all just want to stand over here in front of the podium, and then we'll stand over to the side. Y'all just want to file in front of the podium.
All right. This face.
We'll stand over this.
Now look at me.
Cheese.
3 more pictures. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I know him.
You do?
I know him.
You do. Everybody knows him, but thank you, girls, for coming.
Thank you.
Can the clerk,
She's sick.
can we please have a roll call of council?
Sure. Hawthorne,
Here.
Hall,
Here.
Kennedy. Here. Mullins,
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Now we will move on to the public hearings. The first public hearing regarding the proposed acquisition of real property, and I'll have our attorney explain that, and then we can have people come forward.
So this is for a proposed acquisition of real estate that is abutting the bank building here in town on Main Street. There was a notice in the paper with the tax ID and everything, which you can ask our town manager for a copy of if you need. Lieber, do you have any other particular ways of describing the property that we're talking about? I know you're kind of probably more familiar with the property than me.
Is the property adjacent to the former People's Bank of Pound building? It is what would be classified as the old his and her building, but it's the hers portion where they had the women's clothes and the prom dresses.
If people want to come forward, if they have anything that they would like to share with the council and the mayor, they can step forward now. If there is no one for that public hearing, we'll move on to the second public hearing. It's a public hearing regarding the budget for the town Pound fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
So I just wanted to briefly explain for everybody the way this works. Every year we adopt the budget and the tax rates. There has to be a public hearing held basically the month prior, effectively from the actual adoption of the rates. The rates will be adopted and the budget will be adopted next month. But this is your opportunity to come forward, be heard by the council regarding your thoughts or objections or opinions regarding the budget or the tax rates. A copy of the proposed budgets in the office. The town manager can get that for you if you'd like. But now's your opportunity to come forward and have the council hear you.
Would anyone like to come forward for the budget hearing? Okay. The next public hearing regarding taxes.
Anybody, just, I don't see anybody want to come forward. Anybody want to discuss that? I see someone do.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yes, Stacy Carson. I no longer live in the town of Pound, but I do live in the Glade Spring area. Former mayor in the town, so I know a little bit about the budget. So I want to address several things on the current budget that I had seen. General guidelines in Virginia show up to 60 officers per every 100,000 citizens, meaning that one officer per every 1,667 citizens, you would have one police officer. As of 2023, Pound, Virginia only had 839 citizens, and with a declining rate of 0.96% in population. So you are dwindling. There is also other wasteful spending that I would like to talk about. The town manager has already been aware of previous recording equipment, and the recording equipment that you guys did have was some of the best that you could get. So again, my son had shown several times that he didn't think recording equipment was needed, and you spent $500 or less on it. The Christmas lights, I was told by citizens were, and I can attest to this, the first week in January is always when the Christmas lights were supposed to come down, so there would not be an extra expense. And you always had to fill out paperwork on when you were going to take the Christmas lights down. And I know for a fact that the Christmas lights didn't come down until the end of January, so that cost you a substantial amount of money. And if that occurred any other year since I had been mayor. Town Hall is being left open on a daily basis for no reason, and you're paying an employee just basically to babysit a building. And I find that a terrible waste of money. Are two treasurers going to be paid at the same time while one is going to be an exchange student? I find that to be an important question to answer. And what kind of training is being done by the taxpayers paying for training of positions in Town Hall? And why are grant funds being mixed into the general funds as the way that it is looking overall in the budget? So those are my questions, and I hope you will take them into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Would anyone else like to speak in the public hearing of the budget? Okay. We will move, if there's no one else, we will move to the next public hearing and the last. A public hearing regarding taxes, rates, and fees for the town of Pound fiscal year 2025-2026. Would anyone like to get up and address the council and mayor?
Just as a point of clarification, they're unchanged, right?
That is the current proposal.
They're unchanged.
Okay. Well, we will go on to our agenda. We have already done the roll call and the prayer and pledge of allegiance. We will now go to the consent calendar. There are 4 things: the approval of agenda, approval of minutes, lists of checks paid, and bank balance report. Is there any discussion on the consent calendar?
Make the motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Can we please have a roll call?
I would like to, I thought it was on here. Do we get a chance as council to discuss the budget that we're proposing, or would that be next?
No, I would urge you to discuss it at this meeting, so there's no sort of hiccups.
It's under-
it's number
But it's under
19.
new business,
It's
yeah.
under.
Okay, budget and tax, rate, new business, okay.
Is there any more discussion on the adoption of the consent calendar? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Cawthorn,
Yes.
Hall,
I guess.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
And the consent calendar was passed. We now go beyond the Central High School's girls basketball, since we've already presented in the plaque. we go to the sixth item, and that is audience comment. Would anyone from the audience like to come up and address the council and mayor?
Go ahead.
Please state your name, whether you live in or out of the corporation.
Connor Bennett, outside of the corporation, live in the Glade Spring area. And I was wanting to address something from the previous council meeting where the thing for the recording equipment had to be specified as recording, not for live. With the essay, which I had done over that period of time, I found some interesting information from some of the citizens of town, and they said that the only reason that they actually knew what was going on within the town was due to the live recordings that were happening at the period of time during my mother's time as mayor. And they all stated that, yeah, they had no idea what was going on until those live recordings came around, because nobody wanted to go and look at YouTube or anything, because they were scrolling on Facebook, just doing nothing at home. And plus, on top of that, I have a genuine question here, because why would you want to get rid of the live recordings if there's nothing to hide? I'm just being honest, and there really should be no reason of anybody scoffing and laughing. If there is truly nothing to hide, why would you want to remove the live recordings whenever that is what people watch? Nobody wants to go back and watch a meeting from 2 days ago that is 3 hours long whenever they could have watched it in live time, because they feel like that may have been edited. There is a lot of mistrust that was already here in town, so why do we need to be making more? There is no reason for doing that, and I just wanted to bring that up to council because that was a piece of information that I found myself.
Thank you for your comment. Would anyone else like to get up and give a comment? Please state your name, whether you live in or out of the town.
Angela Barnett, 11529 Mayport Road, Town, Virginia, and I'm outside the corporation limits. I just personally don't see that it's feasible for the town to acquire that real property adjacent to the bank. I mean, with it still upend on whether it's gonna come down to be put on a ballot, of whether the town keeps its charter or not. I just don't feel like that the town should acquire anything extra, because we have hard enough time maintaining what we've already got without acquiring something new.
Thank you for your comment. Would anyone else in the audience like to come up and give a comment?
Stacy Johnson, again, out of the corporation, in Glade Spring. And the only thing that I wanted to reiterate, that I said about the budget and the concerns that I have is, as I said, I read off some general guidelines for Virginia specifically. And you have to consider that all the citizens in the town, the age limit is around 47 for people moving in or into the town. No younger generations are moving into the town. Just so council is aware, you have a lot of senior citizens in this town, and to raise taxes or to raise any kind of funds when so many are living on a limited income, a fixed income, is just beyond belief. And you do have a lot of widows in the town. So I strongly recommend, when you're looking at this budget and stuff, you really consider all the citizens and how it's going to affect them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Would anyone else from the audience like to come up and address the council, mayor, and give a public comment? If there is no one, we will move on to the next, and that is the reports. Would the police department like to give a report?
How you doing, Council? How you doing, Mayor? first time of business, we got a new officer back here, Nathan Burton. Everybody to welcome him into town. Visits at the shops are continuing. Be in contact with VDOT in reference to the parking complaint. I know that's been a couple of months going by now, but I still haven't gotten a satisfactory response on that. As far as another item on the agenda tonight, skills games. Contacted the Commonwealth's attorney today, and they advised that it's in legal limbo right now. So everybody's just trying to put their heads together to figure out how to deal with it. That's about all from the report too. Does anyone have any questions?
Like, what are they doing about those skill game locations?
Well,
Do you know?
right now, nothing, because it's like I said, they're saying that, you know, they were waiting on the General Assembly to take some action, and there's some things I think maybe gonna be changing July 1, but we don't know exactly what, okay? And they just have to get everything ironed out to be able to.
So they'll be voting in July.
No, it's already passed. It's just a matter of interpretation and figuring out what's in there. You know how those bills are, you 500-page bill is, they can be buried in the middle. So I did go ahead preemptively and contact them because I knew that was gonna be an issue coming up, and we'll let y'all know that. One other thing I would point out, I forgot. If y'all noticed, the Coalfield Progress came out today. There's a picture of 3 gentlemen on the front page of that Coalfield Progress. The gentleman in the middle was arrested by none other than the Pound Police Department. It's been a while back, 2.5 years. As a result of that arrest, what you read in that article is what happened. Okay? 3 people got sentenced to federal time for distributing massive amounts of fentanyl all over Southwest Virginia. So even though we don't come up here all the time and mouth things, there's a reason for that. There's a lot of things that have to go on behind the scenes for these investigations to take place and to grow legs. So I say that to say, on these other issues that we're talking about, just know that every rock is being turned over that can be. And at some point in time, something will happen. I wanted to say, I appreciate that. I contacted Delegate Moorfield. I know he's the delegate next door, not here. And he clearly said that skill games are illegal in Virginia right now. And I know that they were made illegal, and then they were taken to court over that, and then they were, you know, the court ruled that they could make them illegal. And so that's the information I'm getting from Delegate Moorfield's office, is that they're illegal. And that's well, to be honest with you, up until this new legislation goes through, I knew that they had said they're illegal. And then I knew they came back and modified it to maybe approve for certain. I will throw this tidbit out there to you also. What I was told was that if we undertook any type of an undercover investigation into these places, should it ever get to that point, if we go in and seize equipment, which we would have to do, then we will have, the town will be financially responsible for paying financial auditors to look into the machines to see exactly what's happened and if any crimes occur. So I don't know at this point, that's what I'm saying, the cost benefit analysis on it. That's why I'm sort of waiting before I say any more, but that's all the information additional.
So July 1st, once the legislation goes through July 1st?
I don't know what goes in. I just know that they addressed it,
Okay.
and I haven't seen, I mean, I've tried to look for it, but I can't find it.
So the delegate told you that it was illegal?
Yeah, Delegate
Then-
Moorfield's
then
office.
Then how did they get to hang a sign in the window and go into business?
Who put it in?
Was
Yeah,
that,
I will
was that
throw,
verbal or was that an email?
That's an email.
I'll throw this out there for whoever might be interested. I heard through the grapevine, so don't know how true this is, that the town of Coburn, the mayor and the police chief are looking into potentially doing something over there. So if someone wants to reach out to them, they're gonna do it independent, from what I understand, to the Commonwealth, because people have differing opinions on how this thing, you know, how it's, the legalities of it. So at this point in time, I'm not educated on it enough and not comfortable enough to go out and take any type of action on it. So, but I have put the wheels in motion and made the contact so that we can hopefully be on the front end of everything, and I'll keep you posted as the,
Who put that in?
who put what in.
The skill game?
I have no idea.
Somebody ought to know who put it in.
No idea.
Did
It's,
they get a permit through the town?
I don't know,
I can't believe this.
I don't handle the business
I'm telling you.
licenses. Listen, we
Go
work
ahead. Go
our
ahead.
butt off here. And you expect people to come from their home when it's snowing, to come over here to deal with what you want to. Pony up, put some time in, because we are.
I put my time in.
Okay.
I'm working every day on the job, out here in the hot sun and this, that, and the other, but I know you don't care, you're in this air conditioned.
No, I worked every day and I came here
So I
after
think
I
we're
got
getting to
off.
the point where this is not really a town business.
We need to know who put this in.
If we
So,
could please just get back to town
that's
business.
what I think.
Cool, so she's going to go get the business license. I assume they have a
There
business
you go.
license. So she'll go get the
Is
business.
this a matter for the police chief still? Or should we discuss
I was
it
gonna say,
later
how
on the
about y'all
agenda?
fight?
Is this, we like having you up there.
No, we just want to know
Just stand
what's
there,
going
Greg.
That
on
would be
in this
under,
town.
I think that'd be under skill games.
under
You
skill
know.
games.
Right.
If something illegal, we need to know
Sure,
it too.
sure.
No, I mean, I know you have.
Well, those things are just, I mean, honestly,
have to
it's,
keep
it's
stuff
causing a
secret.
nuisance for everybody.
Yeah.
And, we just don't know, there's not a simple solution for it right now. And then when we get there, it's up to the Commonwealth whether or not they want to prosecute.
There you go.
So, you know, ultimately, whatever decision's made, is their decision.
We will discuss.
But it is on the radar.
On the agenda. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you following up on that.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, is there anyone from the fire department here to give a comment? Okay, have we heard anything from anybody at the fire department?
They were invited.
Okay. Okay, town manager is, oh, she's back there.
Yeah.
We will go to the EDA, we'll come back to the town manager. Someone from the EDA?
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, as of this moment in time, we're spending more than we've just about got. What was my, we've got about $2,000 some dollars in there now. We've had somebody look at it, maybe wanting to stay there for a few days, but we have to do some stuff, so that would be a little bit of an income. We've looked at it. So money's going out for extra, well, we're not getting anything in.
Can you clarify, where they're staying at, or, I mean, are you talking about like at this property?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so,
they've been looking at the Lloyd House.
okay, Lloyd, that's what I was.
Yeah. So, it's just a matter of us doing a couple of things to see if we can get everything straightened out for them to be okay with it.
What's its problem?
We have to get a water heater. And then, yeah, I mean, it's got water, I didn't turn the water, we've got electricity, we've been paying for electricity.
It's gonna need some extermination.
Exterminations, and we have work to do on it before they can come in.
And furniture.
We got some furniture, all of
Needs
it's
a little
been
more.
donated, but we've got curtains, we've got furniture, we've got, you know.
So we're gonna be operating a bed and breakfast? Is that what it's?
Kinda, but not. Kinda, but not, does that make sense?
No.
Right now, that's all we can do until we get it really ready for the Airbnb. I fix those rooms the way we want it fixed. It's just gonna take time. And with what we're paying out on electricity and water, I mean, that's $107 every month. Electricity was $207. It's gone down now. This last bill, I just got it a minute ago, it was $9 and something. The bill before that was 15 something. So we're working. I'm trying to get some money coming in, and we're hoping to maybe do a raffle or something to make some money to help pay for stuff. It's just a matter of trying to get everybody, you know, helping and stuff. Trying to do the raffles, trying to do this or that.
Yeah.
Trying to help put this stuff in, you know, without having to pay somebody to do it. We just have to wait and see, you know, but we do have interest in it,
Okay,
okay?
thanks for your report.
Okay.
Not to interrupt the flow of things, I just noticed since Brittany's absent, do we have the recorder?
No, the
Because
clerk
I know
usually
the clerk, yeah,
gets.
because I know the clerk was absent, I was like,
Yeah,
wait a
she's,
second, minutes.
Yes.
oh, is she still looking? Is she back in? Is she back in?
She's not
No?
there.
I hear the door shut. You have the recorder. Oh. There's a lot of stuff to remember.
Which, unfortunately, you're reducing,
Yes.
so
It'll be.
we've got something
multiple.
to fall back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here it comes back.
I'll show you an email later.
Oh, okay.
Driver doors,
Yeah, but it's-
is the manager back?
No.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. See how far my mind goes? Not very far sometimes.
Thanks for reminding me.
no problem. I didn't-
I'm glad to.
I realized you were
Glad
absent.
you
I was like, well,
Too much stuff going on.
Sorry about that.
it's all good.
I did not see his business license, but I'm almost certain that he applied for one. His name is Michael Wilson. I'll check and see if it's in Miracle's records tomorrow. Maybe she just hasn't filed it yet in the binder.
Would the town manager please give a report?
Yeah. So, let's see here. I talked to VDOT about the secondary roads, about Beach Street, Spruce, Walnut, Hickory, Riverside. So the Pound Bottom, Riverside Circle, Riverside Drive is all state maintained. Those are state secondary roads. The Spruce, Walnut, Hickory, Beach are not. Still trying to find out, I know that you had mentioned that there was some agreements as far as when water lines were put in, and I'm trying to find that out, but so far, nothing on that end. They did say that those could become like state maintained roads, but the property owners that live on that street would have to file through the county and then file through VDOT.
File for assistance with the road.
Yeah, like they would have to apply for it to become a maintained road, like they would have, the county would have to agree to take that road
How
in.
much right of way do they want?
That I don't know. Yeah,
That's
that I
the
don't
time.
know.
Each person on that street would have to,
I think typically what they do is they have the people on that street like sign a petition to do it together.
Is there any more on that topic, or is there any more that the
That's
manager
all I
looks
have
at?
on that, and then, let's see here. I think my other stuff is later. Yeah, I have a couple other things on the agenda, but other than that, we've just been trying to get these, alternate budgets prepared and things for y'all.
Okay. Will we move on to, old business, item number 8. That is DEQ, Appalachian Voices, bad building. Is there any discussion on that?
DEQ and the bad buildings did give their final report on May 7th, I think it was, and we actually uploaded a copy of the flyer to the Facebook page. There is a QR code on that if anybody is interested in looking at the full report on that. And at this point, it's kind of one of those things that we continue to work as a group as far as those people that had come out and helped with the bad buildings, write friendly letters to some of the property owners and see if we can do something.
Any more discussion on that? Next item is audits. Any discussion on that?
So David Cox was with us on the 15th, He came in and gave us a list of things to upload to a jump drive, so we've started uploading all of those to have them on electronic files for him. So he'll be going through that and trying to prepare a pre-audit.
So the wheels have started.
They have started, and he said, was it 8,500 per,
Yes.
so that was
He
the
said that he
price?
would get us like a
Yeah.
paper invoice.
Yeah, he will get us a contract to sign, and it's 8,500 for each fiscal year. So I would make a motion that we approve for Brittany to sign the contract to go ahead with the pre-audits, so that we can get in line with Robinson, Cox, and Farmer with regard to the audit.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
I second.
Any discussion?
So the grant money pays for the audit, but not the pre-audit, or will the grant money pay for the pre-audit?
No, you can thank Doge for that, because that grant was denied.
It was denied.
That's on us. And if you look in the budget, there is $50,000 set aside for the audits.
And so the pre-audit is for what years?
It's for 22, 23, and 23, 24.
And that's 8,500, pre-audits for both.
8,500 each.
So that's 17,000. Wow. I mean, this is something that has to be done,
Yeah.
and, but
That doesn't
Yes.
mean we can't continue to look for other grants that might possibly help cover the cost of those audits. But it's been a task just trying to get ready for the audits, trying to get the budget done, handling, just day-to-day phone calls, and just trying to get us where we need to be. So it's been a struggle.
Thank God for anything. It's a job.
so then we'll do the pre-audit, then we'll have the audit, and the auditor will come, do a presentation, and
Most likely they will do it via video conference. My understanding with Robinson, Cox, and Farmer is that the majority, if not all of our audits, they will do via online some way, so that they do not have to travel here, which saves us in the long run. When we talked to Rodifer and Moss, if I remember right, and that's been quite some time ago, they were wanting $25,000 just for their portion of the audit. And when we talked with Robinson, Cox, and Farmer, I want to say theirs was $18,000 per fiscal year. And he said it could be a little bit less than that depending on what they have to do. I mean, we don't have water and sewer anymore, we don't have garbage, so, there's a lot of things that are not in the mix now that was in the mix before.
it's something that has to be done. Audits are required, even though we haven't had them required.
In a long time. A long time.
So there is a motion, is there any more discussion about the motion? Can we have a roll call vote of that motion, please?
Cawthorn,
Reluctantly, yes.
Hall,
Yeah.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Howard.
Yeah.
We go on to the next item, and that is the town website. Any discussion about that?
I had placed in your packets last month, and I just wanted to address it this month since there was no action taken on if that was an interest of council to have the website redone and streamlined. It was a costly quote. It was a $5,000 investment with a $75 a month maintenance fee, which he would take care of all the updating of the website, things like that. It would also allow us to have a payment system through there, just a little bit more, a website more like what some of our neighboring towns have. So I just didn't know if that was something that council wanted me to decline, or if you all wanted to move forward with that.
So the current website has the information, someone was saying it had the minutes, the agenda.
The
On the
agenda
website for
and the
this
minutes
month.
are on there, yes,
And
as
has
well
minutes
as
on there.
a YouTube channel's been set up and a link to the YouTube channel is on the website as well.
And so,
I guess the question is, do you want bare bones or do you want a website?
I'm fine with bare bones.
I just wanted to make sure before I decline him.
Since we
what
don't have
council
water and
wanted to
sewer
do.
bills, you know, your taxes are just once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So,
Is there anyone who wants to present a motion?
Was that a motion?
No. Is there anyone who wants to present a motion? And if not, is it all the discussion? Town website? Okay. Next item is the broadcasting of meetings. Any discussion?
how's that coming along? Broadcast the meetings?
Yeah, it's videoing currently,
Oh.
and we, the YouTube channel set up, so we'll be able to upload
Great.
What is that YouTube channel called?
Town of Pound.
Okay.
Yep,
Count what?
Town of Pound.
Town of Pound.
Like I said, I wish it was live, but the council did not decide to go that direction, so I'm glad it's being broadcast.
If there's no more discussion, we will move on to admin computers.
That's another one of my items. It was also in last month's packet. So since you guys have had a little bit more time to kind of think over that, I didn't want to make that purchase without council approval. It would be for 4 stations. And again, it was roughly $5,100 for 4 stations.
I would make a motion to purchase the computers.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
I second it.
Is there any discussion?
So is this a bare bones versus updated issue like with the website, or is this something that you feel like is necessary?
This is something that's pretty necessary. We only have one computer that works really well, so we all have to take turns trying to get things
Decent,
done.
decent.
So it's just, it makes things a little bit more complicated. And, they're also a little bit out of date. One of them, as I've said before, has something to the tune of 200 to 300 viruses on it. So, I think it's something that's needed.
There is a lot of sitting and waiting for things to load, so it's extremely necessary.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay. Can we have a roll call to vote, please?
Cawthorn,
I'm gonna abstain.
Hall,
Say no.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
And the motion is passed. Can we move on to grant updates? Is there any grant updates? Any discussion on that?
Just a second. We do have a grant that has been awarded, but we are not able to announce it until after the 22nd with regard to what that is. Everything else is just, we are kind of in a holding pattern, still waiting on FEMA. We do have a call set up with them, I think Friday, to talk to FEMA about the design. We will have GSI, the engineering construction company for the state. They will be on the line with us to answer some of FEMA's questions. The monuments grant, we can't, we're in a holding pattern with that, and that has to do with the acquisition of the building. So, once we get those things resolved, that will move forward. There are still a couple of other grants that we're looking at applying for, but we haven't got those done yet. Budget took precedent over everything.
Okay. Any more discussion on the grants? With no more discussion, we will move on to Heritage Days. Any discussion on that?
Heritage Days is moving along. Kids Night is Friday night. There will be popcorn, snacks, cupcakes, bounce houses. If the machine works, cotton candy, The DJ, all provided free to the kids.
Cakewalks.
Cakewalks. Thursday night is picking in the pound, and then Saturday we have several different vendors set up, several food vendors that are planning to set up, and live music all throughout the day. We're gonna have a quilt raffle.
Raffle.
Yeah, quilt raffle.
Yeah, I hate that kids' night, Ridgeview High's graduation the same night. I'm sure the kids will have a good time.
Yeah, and JW Adams has, taken flyers and sent some home with kids, so hopefully we can
I
get a bunch of
appreciate
kids out.
y'all always trying to keep it free to the kids. It's always fun to go somewhere and not have to pay a bunch.
Any more discussion on Heritage Days? We will move on to item number 15, limited access.
Limited access was tabled last month with regard to Mackie Mullins' property, to approve the resolution to take to the county so that he can get a driveway put in there. So I will make the motion once again to approve that resolution so that Mackie can get a driveway in.
What does that, how does that involve the town?
Would you like to second the motion so we can discuss?
The trap.
No.
Do we have a second?
If you wanna find out, you have to say.
Do we have a second?
That doesn't mean you're voting for it, Lyndon, that just means it opens it for discussion.
Okay, let's second that thing.
Okay.
So, so some years back, and, you know, it's part of the comprehensive plan now and has been for quite some time to remove limited access on the 4-lane. The way it stands now, no new inlet can be made to the 4-lane because of that limited access. So in order for him to get to his property, he has to go down Water Plant Road.
Cross the bridge.
So what he's wanting is to open the limited access, which in all honesty really needs to be done anyway because it opens up opportunity to the town. But that will just allow him to put his driveway in. It doesn't do anything else for the remaining limited access. But that's something the planning commission will address at some point.
This would not cost the town anything.
No, it's nothing to us, and it's just a resolution saying that, you know, we are for removing the limited access so he can get a driveway.
It's not even, anything is not necessarily being done other than we're addressing the county, is that correct?
Yeah,
We're
it'll
just
just
asking
go,
the county.
showing them that we're standing behind him and we agree with removing the limited access so
Is
that
he
he can
here?
have that. He is not here. He-
Okay.
Now, now he lives in the town
He lives on the 4-lane outside of town.
and is the place where we would be granting him access, is that in the town?
It is not, but we are the ones that requested limited access way back when, because business owners did not want business going out on the 4-lane, so they missed that boat.
Well, if the businesses are out on the 4-lane, we wouldn't have any businesses in town.
Not necessarily. That's part of what we talked about before with regard to the comprehensive plan and an additional boundary adjustment.
Well,
You know, it would not be anything to do a boundary adjustment up 23 so that we can take in some of those properties on the side.
Dollar General.
Dollar General, there are other locations up there that property owners, I have been told, would sell their land, which could also mean like malls or gas stations or truck stops or
Malls.
Yeah, not a huge mall, more like a strip mall.
Yeah, I think since it's out of the town limits, I don't see where we have any jurisdiction
The
to.
county has already told him that we have to approve it before they will look at it.
What would be the harm in recommending?
I don't guess Interstate 26 is gonna do anytime soon.
Well, I mean,
If you're talking about the Coalfield Expressway,
I'm coming Interstate 26 coming up through Tennessee.
no, it's not coming anytime soon.
You know, they, similar had like a place that he could get into his property at some time. What were they working on?
Me, either. Who's gonna get
If
it?
you were talking about the PSA, that was a PSA working on it till they could get in there.
Well, the fact is, I mean, you know, you have access to the 4-lane, there are a lot of people that do have access to the 4-lane. If he wants to build a, you know, a driveway, I know he's not in town, it won't cost us anything, why not? I mean, I didn't realize that something out of town would be affected by our vote, it's just interesting.
Any more discussion?
Good thing.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Hawthorne,
Yes,
Hall,
Yeah.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion passes. Now we go to Pocket Park and slide update. Any discussion?
I think I kind of covered that with regard to the grant. You know, we're kind of in a holding pattern. We have submitted a letter of intent to Department of Energy for 2 possible AMLR grants, one of which addresses the remaining portion of what's needed for the Pocket Park, and another location, what we call Project Airstrip, with regard to a housing opportunity.
this might be a good time to address why it is we want to acquire that property. I know she had a concern about that in
Which
relation
property?
to the slide and Pocket Park.
Because the way it stands now, the remaining wall to the bank has to be, per the structural engineer, has to be removed and reconstructed. It will cost $50,000 to $75,000 to reconstruct that wall, take it down and reconstruct it, because it's not an external wall. The structural engineer did say that he could not guarantee the integrity of the wall based on the continued deterioration of the adjacent property. However, we do have, at this point, 2 possible buyers for the remaining portion of that building. The only thing that we would be taking is what was originally classified as the alleyway, which is about 12-foot, 10-foot limit.
About 10 square, probably.
Yeah, so the piece that has the metal roof over it is also a fire hazard. So it will eliminate the fire hazard, it will take it back to an external wall. The monument can go up to that wall. And we save $50,000 to $75,000 building a new wall. We'll have roughly about $5,000 in the alleyway section. And the remaining portion of the building will be sold. And it'll cost us $15,000 to finish the demolition, which is already covered in grant funds.
So I was skeptical as well, but if you understand what she's saying, is she's saying that in order to repair the slide, we need to acquire this building. And that what we pay for this building, she has, I guess, 2 people is what she's saying, that are willing to buy it minus maybe $5,000 for us to be able to repair the slide. And so I was reluctant, you know, why do we need more real estate? Can't take care of what we got, you know? But,
Ain't gonna keep it.
what's that?
I said, we just ain't gonna keep it.
Right, it's a pass-through sort of thing, so I think that's good.
That is all the discussion on the Pocket Park and slide update. We will move to the campsite. Any discussion on that?
Yes, I'm not for the campsite, if it's that the one I'm taking back.
In the area?
I'm
In the
no-
red box area.
I'm in no favor of that. Can't be at, because I encountered an ordeal up there at the campsite, and it's not gonna work. We can do things up here at the high school, same thing we can do up there.
We still own that property.
We'll sell it.
Who's gonna buy it? Been there forever.
You gotta put it up for
That-
sale first.
That was the original plan.
Well,
was to
we don't
build
need that up
property.
there. And I will not vote for it, because I'm gonna tell you, we can't have the police up there, we can't have that liability. Gotta put that fence up. How much more? You can't even afford what's going on in town. How can we do that up there?
I don't know that we do have to put a fence up.
So I think, Councilman Powers and I went up there and hiked the lower trail from the campsite. And we talked with the landowners who were asking for $300-some thousand for a fence. And we hiked down that trail. It's in pretty rough shape in some spots. And there are two ways out. There's Jeff Everidge, who owns here, and then there's the one who owns beside the Devil John Wright Cemetery. Tell me if I get anything wrong. We spoke with Jeff, and he said he did not want people crossing his property. That's behind the Quick Mart. And then we've heard from others that the guy who owns the property that Roger Mullins used to own does not want people crossing his property. And so the point being, what the landowner said, and what I think would be useful is, if we were to put an impenetrable barrier at the lower end of the campsite, so that nobody could travel down the trail, then I think everybody would be happy. And there's enough trails, like the Red Fox Trail, you go over to Kentucky or whatever, without that stretch of property, that stretch of trail being utilized by people who stay at the campground. And so my motion would be to put up an impenetrable barrier at the access point to our right-of-way on the lower side of a campsite. And that would take care of at least the first issue of the wall, fence, and people going through these other people's properties.
Okay. Before there's any discussion, do we have a second to the motion?
I will second that.
Okay. Now, is there any discussion?
Like I said, I'm not going to support anything of that up there.
Well, what this does, this is the first step that protects the property owners.
We don't need up there.
Well, that may be the
Let
next
these property
discussion.
owners have their property and leave them alone.
Why don't we ask Debbie Hill to come up, because this is a project that she's worked on for several
Who?
years.
Debbie Hill.
Well, that's the reason I'm not going to vote for it.
Oh.
That lady right
If
there.
she wants to address the council, that's fine.
Please.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, please.
In 2010, I came before this group, this council, and talked about different outdoor recreation ideas that I felt like would be beneficial to the town and the community. And I had the full support of council at that time. There was a resolution passed that would support any outdoor recreation that the council felt would be good for the area. So that's when I started this, when I started trying to work and trying to help. You know, this is nothing for me. I'm trying to help the community that I grew up in, the community that my family grew up in. You know, I still have a love for this area, even though I don't actually live in town. You know, I have a lot of connections here. So I have spent 15 years. This trail was my main project that I started with. Jackie told me that I would have support of the town as long as I did the work, her exact words. And I was willing to do the work. I shared with you guys the history behind all of this. Have you had a chance to read it? Did you have a chance to read it? No? Okay. Because I didn't know if I should read it all here tonight, or if, you know, if you guys kind of know what's
If you
going
can
on.
do it in 3 minutes.
This is not public comment,
That's
is it?
true. We did ask you to come up here.
So I get more than 3 minutes?
You can do it, just, you know, make it as quick as you can. For the courtesy of the audience
Okay.
and council.
Wise County has really supported this trail. The Wise County Recreation Authority has donated money for it. The Wise County Tourism Committee has donated money for it. The EDA gave the town $8,000 to purchase this property, which you don't feel like we need. Well, I mean, this is up to you, this is in your hands. I don't have any authority over this, you know. I've got some ideas, I'm willing to work for those ideas, but if, you know, you don't, feel like you wanna move forward with this campsite, that's up to you. But I'm gonna continue working on this trail. And there's no way that we can put this barrier that you're talking about, because the very next section of property that connects directly to the town property is National Forest. And the town has no authority to block people from going into the National Forest. The next piece of property beyond the National Forest, it belongs to Jamie Robinson Cox. And she has given us a deed of dedication for the town to use this as a public trail through her piece of property. The very next piece of property connected to that is National Forest. You can't, it's public land, you can't block people from the National Forest. The next piece of property belongs to Ernie and Tony Page. They have given the town a deed of dedication that's recorded at the courthouse to allow the trail to go through their property.
Would they allow horses and such to go through the property?
It's a non-motorized, multi-use trail, which means no four-wheelers. The Page property is next to, well, they actually own railroad property that goes into Jeff's yard. We had talked about that because I didn't want people going into his yard or into private property. So this sign would go there before you actually get around the corner or to go out where you go out to the cemetery. We're gonna block off the cemetery because we don't want people riding horses or bicycles or whatever into the cemetery. You know, we've talked about this for years. You guys weren't involved in it at that time. You know, and nobody ever asked me any questions except for Gary wanting me to give him the Hunt Club lock, which I chose not to do.
Wasn't your log.
It wasn't my lock. I'm responsible and I'm.
Well, you lied to me up there. You said the guy at the lodge had the key. I went up there, said, I don't have the key, Debbie has it. So I went back there and told you, you lied. And if you can't trust me, I've worked with people all over Wise County, had their keys to their homes and everything. Funeral homes, schools, and then you can't trust me?
Good. That's
I
nice.
was up there camping.
I don't
I was
trust you,
just-
you need to go back to Lee County.
I understand you.
So I think the question is with landowners, is that, you know, we do have the gate up with the lock at the hunt club. That's, you know, that's there. There's even a gate on the other side of the campground, below the campground, going toward the cemetery down that way. Couldn't we just tell people who rent there or who stay there, they can't go beyond that point on that trail?
I don't think so. It's National Forest. How do you?
Well, it's our right of way, you know, right there. Is that correct?
We've signed a contract that says it's a public trail.
Once you do the dedication, that it will be open to the public. It's open to the public.
But is it our right of way, and therefore are we able to do anything?
It doesn't matter. Once we've signed that deed of dedication stating that it will always be a public access property, then that's what it is.
Which has already occurred, is what
That
you're
was
saying.
done.
Absolutely has.
That was done, that was one of the requirements for the grant, Virginia Outdoors grant that we received.
So we'd have to pay back the $8,000.
No,
No, if you choose not to do the campsite, you give back $40,900. And that's up to you, you know. You don't want the campsites, fine with me.
I
I'm
think
going ahead
that
with the trail regardless.
without an exit point with the trail below the campsite. I don't see why we would even want people going down that way. It's just to go down and turn around and come back, is that?
No, my dream was to have a trailhead there near the lake. Cause I thought it'd be really cool if we ever get the tunnel open, access through the tunnel, that people could go from the tunnel 3 miles and end up at the lake, at our North Fork Lake.
Would that have to go over private property in order to get to the lake?
I'm still working on that part.
The tunnel is, I don't know, have you been in it recently?
Yeah,
It's,
Have you?
we actually, a few years ago, me and some boys back here walked in it, and it is, we walked actually all the way through it, one of us did. And it is, at one point, it is all the way fallen in, and you have to get through a little hole. And it is just, you have to go, it's like mountains underneath a mountain.
You are aware though that they're working on it from the Kentucky side?
Well, as, when I went back there a little while ago, it was all still blocked off. How recent have they been working on it?
They've been,
Virginia, the Eastern Kentucky Heritage Foundation purchased that entire side of the mountain, including
About how
Raven
long?
Rock. Part of their plan is to, open access to the tunnel.
About how
on their
long
side.
was that? How,
they don't have it open.
how recent,
How long what?
how did they start working on it?
They've not
They
started
purchased the
working on the
property a
tunnel.
year ago, and their plan is to do this. I didn't say that they were actually doing
Yeah.
physical work there yet. My idea was not for people to go in the tunnel either, unless, years down the road it gets safe to do so. But just to have people to have access to it so that they could look at the engineering that it took to build that tunnel. And there's lots of people in this community that were connected to that, that were involved in building it, or their family was involved in building it. And there's a lot of interest in it. I led a hike on the Red Fox Trail on Sunday morning. I had 3 people from Marion, drove all the way from Marion because they were interested in seeing what we have here in the Pound community. After the hike, some other folks came by, 3 women from Ohio came. They were related to Doc Taylor, and they were trying to find a killing rock. But someone told them to go in from the tunnel side, and they were having difficulty. So I found them up in the creek, and I directed them to drive up to the top of the mountain and walk down to the killing rock from there, because it's a little easier for most
So who owns the hunt club? Do we own that?
We do not. It's
Who
owned by
owns the
Tony
hunt club?
Powers.
It's a private well.
So
Cumberland
he has,
Mountain Fur Fishing Game Association.
so he has the right to put up a barrier, which is what he has there. He has a barrier. When you go, like where the tunnel is, or to go to the hunt club,
That gate there is National Forest Gate.
and then there is a gate.
$120 a year to the National Forest to be able to drive to their building.
Okay, and so there is a gate on the lower side of the campsite.
There's a
Isn't that
gate
correct?
right past the
Right,
hunt
yes.
club.
No,
There's not on the lower side.
no.
I was thinking there's a gate there.
No, there's
Not
another
National
Forest
Forest.
Service gate right past the hunt club.
Before you get to the campsite.
Yes.
There's a little teeny piece of town property, if you want to take time to look at some maps. There's a little pie-shaped piece of town property that's right next to that gate. That's where we have 2 picnic tables and a very big trash can. That's actually town property, a little piece out like this. That I've got mapped out.
If it's,
Plus the other, 3 acres down.
if it's town property, I don't see why we can't restrict people who would use the campsite from going down the trail.
Because you have a deed of dedication that states it will be open to the public. Once you've done it, you can't take it back. You can't say, no, I don't want anybody there anymore. We're just gonna cancel it. Once it's done, it's recorded.
And
It's
so,
been recorded, hasn't it? We had to, ensure that before we had to release the money, funding for the campsites.
and so you can ask the county if they wanted to take over, maintenance of it and ownership of it. Right.
Town
The
property.
county helped us buy it, why would they do that?
Town property.
I know they wouldn't, 'cause they got better sense.
So I guess we asked the attorney about the motion that was made, to put up a barrier, I said impediment, so that people cannot go past the campground. Is that something you would need to do research on, or?
Well, I believe, from what I understand, you're telling us that that barrier would be town property, national forest, right? Which you could not block.
Well, it'd be town property, then national forest.
It abuts the national forest, right? So I don't believe you'd be able to put up a gate restricting movement between the national forest. I mean, I would have to look into that, but because obviously I don't like to answer legal questions on the fly. I like to have time to make sure I know what I'm talking about. But my impression of it is that you can't restrict access to national forest land.
Other towns in the area have property that's outside of town limits. You know, based on their lines, all of the Big Cherry Lake area, 1,000 acres up there.
Yep.
We used to own the sewer plant, that was outside.
What?
We used to own the sewer plant, that was outside.
Right.
Plus
I'm
the
just saying that in the town of
Lyons.
Lyons, they have this big sports complex out at the airport, so there's other, places that have property that's not within the town limits, so.
But I was just gonna interject if I may. You had spoken about talking with property owners on this hike that you all did. Did you get the sense that there was maybe some way to kind of compromise here that would not involve $300,000 of fencing?
We can ask them, some over here.
Because I believe that it seems as if the best way to approach this then is to try to see if there's anything other than a $300,000 fence that would appease property owners, that would allow the town to continue to use this trailer campsite. I just wanted to check with you because it seemed like you were kind of giving the sense that you had spoken with some and found potentially a way to kind of compromise outside of either just barreling through and risking litigation or paying for a $300,000 fence.
Well, I think what we understood is if we restricted people from going below the campsite, then the property owners would be happy.
Yeah.
That's the understanding of the property owners.
It's not an option.
So I mean, if the council.
That would be like them blocking off national forest. They can't do that either.
Could we just not put up a prominent sign saying, renters, campers, don't go beyond this point? Don't block it, they can, enter at your own risk.
Well, the best way.
We're always in it, they're on the risk.
You're still dealing with a trail that has a need of dedication.
They're gonna do everything.
Classifying it as
It'll be trash and everything.
There is no way you
No, there was not being
off of your
trash.
property. I know,
No, I know.
I know.
How much did you pick up as you walked along?
The best way,
I guess you picked it up before I went there.
They're just campers. They're not gonna
Pick it up mile.
Yeah.
They're decent people, most of them.
if the trail were to fall into disrepair, people would not use it.
It was a muddy mess
Right.
the day we went. There's
Right.
no bicycling on that
Right.
trail.
It's degenerated since I used it 5, 6 years ago. My kids took their bikes on it 5 or 6 years ago.
There was also a DEQ complaint that somebody was up there using a four-wheeler or something of that nature. So Debbie and I did go up there with DEQ, and they said no evidence of any such thing occurring. So if it's occurring, it's not occurring from our side.
No, I saw
There,
it.
there was also, they said there was an indicator that there was something going on with the tunnel. We walked about, 20 feet up through there, and he said, I'm not going all the way up through there. It's very obvious that nothing has been disturbed. The reason the trail is in disrepair is because the property owners put up a gate. They were told by Karen Mullins, the county attorney, to take it down along with the trail cams. I haven't been back up through there to see if it's been taken down.
And neither have I, for years, several years, I took my own tractor and I mowed it and kept it in good shape.
Roger, you
When-
should keep it up.
When the gate was put up, and I was charged with trespassing. I no longer maintain that section, I haven't been out there since. Huh?
I said, since you were charged, right?
Right? Yeah, I didn't wanna take a chance on going to
Yeah.
that end.
So I think the best way to discourage use of that trail is to let it fall into disrepair.
Okay, that's not that's not gonna be your option, because you don't own that trail.
Well, we don't want it going on the landowner's property at all, or leading to a path where it might. And so we're trying just to work with the landowners and the property that we have.
So, the landowners that actually own the right of way has given the town a deed of dedication to be able to use that right of way. So what's the
So
problem?
it would be up to
Well,
that
the trail goes
landowner.
near other people's property too. So,
Well, everything
it's
goes
just,
near
how can we
someone else's
appease?
property.
Our place is near my property.
Nobody
Well, I
owns
mean,
it all.
they're here and they brought the complaint. And so we wanna make, as many people happy
Okay,
as we can.
let's make a decision.
We do have a motion
We
and
have
a second.
campsite, we don't have a campsite. That's the only really decision you guys have to make. Whether we keep the money and build the campsites or return the money. That's it.
Can we have the motion repeated, please?
The motion on the table is to put up an impenetrable barrier at the edge of the town's property to prevent people from going further.
We need to do something with the motion.
Did
I
I?
have a
Yeah.
substitute motion at this point to continue with the construction of the campsite. The property already has the deed of dedication and is listed as public property.
Do we have a substitute motion? Do we have a second to that substitute motion?
I second.
And I'd probably need to address the council just about the implications of if there were a barrier that could potentially affect the deed of dedication, which guarantees public access, which could be a cause of action, as well as potentially any sort of blocking of national forest land. I just think that's a concern that you all should bear in mind as you vote on that.
We have a substitute motion. Is there any more discussion on substitute motion?
Maybe the people who threatened us with a $350,000 whatever fence cost would like to address the issue.
Campsite has nothing to do with the trail at this point. Debbie's just told you, we have no decision with regard to the trail. That would be the actual property owners of that trail.
But if we put the campsite up there, it's going to encourage the use of the trail, I'm assuming, is the desire. Is that,
Right.
so it does affect the trail. It does affect the use of the trail. There is a substitute motion. Is there any more discussion on that substitute motion before we vote?
So the substitute motion is that we don't do anything. We just leave it like it is.
No, the substitute motion is that we continue with the construction of the campsite. The deed of dedication to make that public land has already been done. We already have the grant money, that's the motion.
Which means continue like it is.
Continue with the construction of the campsite.
So, and I think the status quo, I'm not ready to stamp my approval on the status quo.
I second it.
Yeah, I mean, it's through discussing it.
Oh.
Is there any more discussion?
I'd like to hear from the landowners, even though, I mean, that's up to council, but they'd like to address this.
Would the council like to have the landowners come up and address the council? Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, we have,
I'd like to hear what
It's
you
your,
think.
you're the mayor, so.
okay,
Sure.
it's my fault. We can hear them. Yes, you will come up here and
My name is Robert Weeds, I'm a landowner up here. Back in 2010, when she started all this, about the trail and stuff, the way she approached the landowners was pretty horrible. Arguments, fights about every bit of it. And then when she finally did do a deed of dedication, behind everybody's back. Where did you do it at? Was it down in Chattanooga or Atlanta when you did the deed of dedication?
I'm sorry.
The deed of dedication, where did you have it done
You
at?
have to answer,
No.
you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Okay,
It's
well,
addressing council.
it was done out of state behind everybody's back. And when she got back, she's waving the paper in Roy's face out here that I'm coming through your property regardless. It was a big screaming match, okay? And she, if you sit and listen to her, okay, it's not being, the town of Pound wants this. This has been her dream, not the town of Pound, it's her dream. And yes, the deed of dedication, you can limit the access, just like you limit the access to this door out here when you close it at night. Am I not correct on that?
No,
So you let people in this door after you close it?
no.
So you don't let them, okay. It's the same thing with my land up there. Okay, when you walk through that cut through, the first piece of land is Mr. Noble's. Okay, the second piece of land belongs to me. The third piece of land is not National Forest. The third piece of land belongs to Daniel Brock. The next piece of land belongs to Shirley Mullins. And then the brother of Miss Page, he owns the next little part. And then Shirley owns a next little part, and this is where Miss Page's property comes in. Where Miss Page's property comes in, I can't remember, Jeffrey bought the land not too long ago. And he bought access to
Everidge.
this. Yeah, Everidge. He bought the right of way, he bought everything to it, and he said, no, nobody's coming through. The man that bought the cemetery, the land with the cemetery, said, no, nobody's gonna come up to this cemetery. But what I don't understand is she wants to keep talking about how it's such a trail coming through here, it's such a paradise coming through. We barely could even get through the thing. Okay, now if it's National Forest, supposed to be National Forest, she's not done nothing to it. What I want is it blocked off, right there at the cut through. Just block it off, nobody beyond this point. She can still have her campground. You can still have your $40,000. I'm happy, she's happy. But apparently she's not happy because she wants to go all the way down with it. It's going to cost you, well, Mr. Benton, when he gets up here, he's going to give you an estimate on the cost that's going to keep the fence away, the campground. My fence is going to be so much cheaper to just cut it off, cut Jerry's off, and now we're not going nowhere with this, okay? But if you wanted to, you could name the campground after Debbie Hill. I don't really care. Just block the public from coming down to there. That's what I'm saying. You guys have been through it. You know it's pretty raw. I mean, the rock is falling off the walls. And the day that you walked up to it, I don't know if you walked through it or not, because your shoes are pretty white when you came back through.
I didn't go through the mud,
No,
sir, I
it
did not.
was a muddy mess when you. But my cameras are over on my property. They're not sitting on that trail. I watch the trail because I love watching the deer go through. I love watching the bear go through.
But you're trying to control property that you don't own. The trail you don't own.
Once again, the deed of dedication. Well, I'm not going, okay. You need to go back and look at it, okay? Because the deed of dedication did not include my property or another property. Now, I don't know what Mr. Dotson has been doing for the last 2 or 3 months. I don't know what kind of research he's doing, but I don't think anybody's really been talking about it. If you want to take the trail down, it's going to cost a lot of money because it is in the deed. And the deeds do say I can take my motorized vehicle from one side of my property over to the other. That's what my deeds say. And when Miss Cox's dad bought this property to develop it, when he took all the railroad tracks up, started a little recycling company down in Big Stone called Robinette Steel. That's how he made his millions. And he was the town manager right here in town. Okay? That right there, he sold a lot of the land back to the landowners. Some of the landowners said, you know, I've got a right of way coming through here, I don't need to buy it back. And unfortunately, that's what happened up here. It's me, I mean, if you block it off, whatever, I'd be more than happy to give you fair market value for that piece there. Because it is hooked to my land. When you walk through that little so-called right of way, this side's my property, this side is my property. It's the same as everybody else walking down through there. It's our property. And I don't really appreciate people saying, well, Miss Cox says that's her property, she's the only one affected by it. I get hunters, I get four-wheelers coming in from the quick shop side. I don't know how they come up. It's another thing on Shirley Mullins' side. She has a cemetery up top that the people will ride the horses down to go over to the lake. She has ran so many people off up there. I'd love for her to come up here, but she's 85 years old and she can't hardly get out. Daniel Brock called him up there cutting way beyond the 12-foot right of way. I've got, which they've seen where it was cut. The illegal logging that's going on up there, I can log my land, I can cross my land like my deed says. I can log, I can come back through and take the logs to the market. There's nothing nobody can do because I have the right of way. Now, as far as limiting somebody coming through there, yeah, I can limit somebody because you can limit somebody coming in here. You can limit somebody taking a patrol car up to the gas station to get cigarettes. You control this. Every one of you control this. You can say, stop it right here. Everybody's happy. If it continues on down, the lawsuit for the $300,000, we will press it on. We will take it on to court.
Let me make a point to you.
Okay.
You're complaining about things going on now. Somebody's bringing a four-wheeler up there, somebody's bringing a horse up there. Those are all things that are occurring now, correct?
Yes, correct.
No eyes. There's no eyes on the place. Eyes on the place make a difference. You see my point there?
My
You're
son,
complaining about something
No,
that's happening,
My
regardless
son-
of the fact.
My son is
of-
building a house up there, right there, right above the cut through. He's got approved for everything, so now his house is going in there, okay? Here's eyes that's gonna be on things. The Reynolds is down there, they keep eye on everything. They keep eye on the hunter coming through because they think they can use that piece of railroad bed down through there to shoot deer over here, my property, shoot deer over here on this property and retrieve it. And that's how they've been doing it forever. I have found deer carcasses up there where they'll shoot a doe, cut the backstrap out of it, and leave it laying there. I've worked with the game warden on this stuff. Nobody cares. I do, it's my property. I can go from this side to that side of my property. I don't need a half a dozen people a year coming through there. I pick up trash, I pick up coolers. I've had to run 2 boys out, probably about the age of 16, 17 years old. Riding mini bikes up there, had a big campfire built, and up there drinking beer. I've had to do this. You guys have not heard my side of the story. It's all been her side of the story.
No, I've listened to everything you've said.
No, you have not. Since 2010, you guys have listened to nothing but what she's saying. She has painted a pretty picture of everything. It's just like the tunnel up there. Okay? They got signs up there now. You cannot enter the tunnel. But then they're wanting to open it. Kentucky said no back in the day.
Who's wanting to open it? Kentucky?
She does. She wants to
She
open
at
it.
no point has said anything about
Yes.
opening that tunnel.
Yes, yes.
No, she has not.
Who opened the tunnel to begin with?
What do you mean, who opened it? It
Who-
was never
wait.
closed from this side.
This side is not closed.
No, it was.
This side is open.
That's correct.
It's open. And who opened it? Because I got pictures of it all boarded up.
Yeah, I've never seen it boarded up. No, I haven't either. The other side is, the Kentucky side is.
The
but not
Virginia
this
side was boarded up. I
See,
have
Then
this
that,
pictures of
then
it.
I would address that with the Forest Service.
It's been a few years.
I think the attorney, it may be best, first of all, to get an idea of whether or not someone can put up a barrier. because the landowners would be happy with the
Yeah, I'd be
campground
tickled to death.
as long as there wasn't traffic below the campground. And what Ms. Hale is saying is that we cannot restrict the traffic
Because it's Forest Service property.
because it's Forest Service property.
Obviously, I serve at the will and pleasure of the council, so I'll do whatever you all ask me to do. And if that's the approach the council wants to take, I'd happily confer with Matt Dotson, who I understand represents, some property owners, and look at plats, look at deeds, look at everything that we need to do to be able to give you a more sound opinion as to if you're implicating. My concern was implication of the deed of dedication, which basically confers a right upon the public, much as a right-of-way confers a right upon private property. So I'd be happy to look into that if the council wants to. Obviously, that's something that's time-consuming, it's something that results in attorney's fees that, it could take some time. I mean, this is a complex land issue. Anytime you have these sorts of issues, even with one party versus one party, much less one party versus several, it's complex. So I'd be happy to look at it at Vice Council next meeting as to where, and I think it would help if we get together as well to look at exactly which portion of that trail you're talking about.
Mr. Williams said that Mr. Bentley might have something to say.
Yeah, Mr. Bentley might have something to say. She's gonna back up. I'm still talking, but she's gonna back up.
Can we wait till after Mr. Bentley comes up, and then you can address and
Shows any of your problem.
Yeah, I mean, she's interrupting me, yeah, nice enough to interrupt her.
I'm gonna.
First, he come up and I'll pass the night,
Okay.
reserve the next time.
Okay.
And I've got some ideas about this whole problem. I've lived there for many, many years, and like they had,
Why don't you come and share those ideas?
well,
Just
there's other
2
things
minutes,
that
just
I
2
need to make sure of legally before I can get involved in it. But there is some good ideas that I've got that I think will eliminate all this. But as far as that road goes, that was my first suggestion, was to block that part off. If National Forest needs right of way, they've got plenty of room around, they can build around that for a road. And they've got plenty of access to do it, we don't. You've got a good idea, I like the campground idea. I've got property that goes all the way up and down through there. So when I get through, I'm gonna put it on paper, I got all your email addresses, and hopefully that'll be an idea. But to support them, I think that section of property itself needs to be restricted if there's any way you can. Because what it does is, it eliminates people coming. There's a lot of other people that come from the dam area, from the Reynolds area, up in that area. So I think that campground's a great idea, but when it comes to pass that campground through that cut, it needs to be shut down.
I guess a motion, what I would make is I would move, we table this till next month. And he can come up with his idea, you know, you can check with the attorney, and we can see whether or not some sort of barrier can be put up. If not, then we move right ahead. But I would make a motion, we table this substitute motion till next month.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Can we have a roll call vote,
Was that a
please?
substitute?
We have a motion.
It was a
So we have a
motion.
substitute motion.
So the motion substitute,
And now we're tabling the substitute motion.
I'm willing to withdraw my substitute motion for the motion to table it.
is that what has to be done usually?
I mean, that's fine, if there's a motion to table.
She's willing to withdraw. We have a motion to table this issue till next month. Can I have a roll in a second? Can I have a roll call vote of that, please?
Cawthorn,
Yes?
Hawk,
Yeah.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
That's just because we don't have the facts.
We can public comment. We will let you come up and show that if you would like to. The last item of old business is the bridge flag. Do we have any discussion on that?
Went missing a few days. I don't know if someone stole it or taken down at night because it got dark. I didn't know, because we do need to have proper lighting to leave it up on the bridge.
That's handled through the VFW.
Oh, the VFW is taking care of it?
They handle that flag, yeah. So I don't think we need to do anything with that.
The
That's what I found out
VFW
through the process of why it was removed, was because it was damaged during a storm. When you brought it up the first time, and when I spoke with Ezra Howard, he said they take care of that, he had one order. And last time he was gonna put it back up when he had an opportunity.
Does it need to have proper lighting if we leave it up at night?
I can reach
It's
out.
handled through
I
the
mean, I've seen
VFW.
since the VFW took care of it, that they had a proper
So
lighting.
VFW is, so we had nothing to do with that flag when it got put up, and now it's the responsibility of the VFW. Is that what you're saying?
We reached out to see why it had been taken down, and they said that they had already ordered one, so they had already been in the process of taking care of it.
So they volunteered.
Okay.
I don't know if it was originally theirs or originally ours, but they took care of that.
But the VFW is taking care of it. Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay, we move to,
Before we move on, I would like to take a brief recess.
okay, we have a request for a recess. I would like that too. Let's have a recess. Be back in 5 minutes.
I'm going to stand up, my legs are killing me. You ain't going there? Well, you're gonna have to get out of the way, cause I don't wanna bump your knee. You just get over here and I'll get in there.
Well,
I forgot about that, yeah.
I'll have to come right back for you.
It's up on Jim.
So if you go past, I'm having a blank right now, the South Mountain Road, where South Mountain Road is, you turn left, I guess that's the old road, right? The old road. And if it's up there, it's a hunt club. On the east side of the hunt club, it's a property.
So let me tell you how. The old Indian, the old Vinton Hunt Road, they used to go around.
When I came here, before they was here, I was about to turn around and go back to Ohio. I came out here to interview with Kentucky. Then all of a sudden came up Al Jenkinson with Warley Country.
You
And
know-
so I was thinking civilization.
You know where Jerry Baker built that big house on Indian Creek, or one of Kentucky. It's the biggest house there
Oh,
on
I
the
might have noticed it.
But anyway, you go up to there, probably halfway up the mountain, there's a road there, it's got a gas station, there's a hunting club. And then this is in hunting. But see, they're going. So your knee's doing good?
Yeah, it's feeling good. It's feeling good. I still have quite a lot of pain in it. It'll be 3 weeks Thursday since I had it done.
You done better than I did. I tried for about a good month on mine.
This one's a lot different than when I had this one done.
You have a lot of problems with that?
Yeah, I had a lot of problems on this one. This one's doing a lot better than this one did.
Yeah, good.
Is Madge okay?
Wouldn't feel the but if you came to the room, you said so it's a training incident.
Yeah, they were looking in Bristol, but they just, like in December, they make it Tennessee.
So you're on the Tennessee side?
Yeah. She's commenting about that.
I'm debating myself.
Yeah.
This was during the pandemic. This was during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
You thought if you put them around, it would destroy the COVID. And then if you came in the room with them, you were like blinded. Remember that? Something like that?
Oh, yeah. Because, what's her name?
Yeah.
Messed up.
Yeah. This is pandemic right here. Pandemic. We did a lot of crazy stuff.
Well, and at the same time, when we got,
Yeah, that's right.
it was high tech stuff.
Not much.
Right over the sun.
Then they moved to Manassas.
Those might be dangerous if you don't know.
Right. Yeah. Do more harm to themselves than good. Self-inflicted harm.
Because it is supposed to take out the germs out of the lungs. We had 10 of them. I don't know what
It's mine.
Use that gas.
I'll
Well, that will speed him up.
I get through in there.
Get it, I'm just gonna feel the vibration. You deputize me, now go get it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I bet you'll make it.
Just don't get lost.
I have to need a guard to get you back.
That's for me. Where did you go? Huh? Where did you go? I had to go to the bathroom.
You didn't have to.
Huh? Did you find out what is this school game? What did they do about it?
Maybe I don't know, but I know it's illegal.
How you know?
Because the government said it. And if it's illegal, why
Is
is
it
it
like
here?
gambling or something? Gambling.
Oh, is that what it is?
I'd say that was it. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They can't do that.
I don't understand what it's for, or what it is.
Hey, anything that they know they can buy here and pay. That's what it is, ain't it? Boys, they just
Start
started.
selling moonshine.
That's a good idea. I drink it up, well, that's the problem.
Me too. If it's good stuff.
Or I used to.
Good. Well, got the, still the marijuana.
Yeah.
Well,
recess is order. We will now move back into order. The next item on the agenda, what? Yes, the next item on the agenda is the budget and tax rates. Is there any discussion or a motion presented?
You'll see in your packet that, we had the budget workshop and we had talked about a couple of different options for the budget. There is also a line there for a 2% tax reduction. That's what our budget would look like with that. And then there is also a line for a 1 cent tax reduction with an increase in cigarette tax. That would, both of these also are cutting back some hours in town hall as well to try to accommodate everyone. Not necessarily closing, but cutting back hours, like some coming in early and leaving early, and some coming in later and staying till 5.
So how much would it save if we shut the town hall down, say 1 day or 2 days?
I'm not sure that it would, everybody's part-time. So we all try to accommodate, try not to eat up hours or anything like that.
Save on the power bill.
Could, yeah. So I think
Save on the ground,
it is,
save on the ground.
people want to have someone here. I know that we've
And we're not open.
had lots of complaints when we're not
They'll
open.
get used
When
to
we
it.
were closed for snow, we had a lot of complaints. I do think it's good to have someone here 5 days per week, but at cutting back hours, we're saving roughly $7,000.
About how many hours would that be?
That would be cutting,
We didn't, when we were looking at it, we didn't equate it to hours.
Okay.
We tried to look at, and me and Brittany and Abby have been playing with this for 3 days, trying to save money. Yeah.
it's been a hooker.
Cutting the clerk treasurers, the clerk and the bookkeeper, and cutting in the cashier category. Abby's situation is unique. With regard to how her pay is coming, but there's also other grants that take care of town manager pay and, some of those pay as well. But we did try to cut back some on the police department as well. And the reason we went ahead and did a 1 cent and a 2 cent with raising the cigarette tax is the cigarette tax, we have it 15 cents per pack. If we raise it to 30 cents per pack, it's more in line with what other communities nearby do. Basically doubles what we take in with regard to cigarette tax, but would still allow for a 1 cent reduction on the taxes. The other thing to consider is that all the communities around us are increasing taxes. So I don't think we're gonna be second to last any longer as far as that goes. Not with the increases that Brittany was able to find out about from the other communities.
What increases have you found out about from other communities?
So Norton is proposing an increase. They didn't specifically say in the manager's meeting which
Well,
area
that would
they're
be more like a
increasing.
county, because they're a city, not a town.
That's true. Wise is proposing an increase. Again, not sure which department, but they did mention in the manager's meeting that they were increasing some of their taxes. Those are the main, those are the.
Clintwood, did you say Clintwood was?
Clintwood went up from 11 to 15 on their real estate, but that's not, an increase, for this year. That was an increase from a couple of years ago.
So that's, 15 cents per $100 versus 45 cents per $100 is quite a, that's 3 times as much.
Dickinson
We're paying
County
here.
ain't got nothing.
I mean, Dickinson County ain't got nothing, you look how they struggle over there.
Like Appalachia's is
And-
53 cents.
Well, Clintwood's got a lot with it, Food City, and
Well,
other businesses.
that was the next thing I was gonna, point I was gonna make is they've got the whole Food City thing going on over there that paid for the roundabout and all that jazz. St. Paul has the power plant that they're getting mega money from. We don't have those things.
We get the same types of people live here as live in these other towns, and yet we are taxed, comparing to Clintwood, 3 times as much.
But they have money coming in from other sources that we don't have.
So the question for the people is, when do we get to the point where we don't have enough sources of income to justify continuing to exist as an incorporated town?
We complain if the town hall's not open, we complain that there's not enough police officers out there. So you either have to adjust for that.
What about the hot tax?
That's state code.
Fortunately,
Would you like to address that, Kevin?
Unfortunately, our legislators have kind of set on that. I would love if they would get some money into these small communities for
Young
something
and
that's
you're
already
done.
happening, but
Young and
I'm
young.
not in the legislature.
Me too, but where those things make a difference for us is the business license. Because Tomos, for example, paid a $50 business license last year. This year, it's $700 and some odd dollars.
It should have been that last year, I'd have backed up and made it pay.
You can, it's based off of the income,
Yeah.
the gross sales.
So I guess one of the questions is, you know, we have taxes twice a year for the people. We probably have, how many on the tax roll? Less than 1,000, certainly,
Roughly, yeah.
less than 1,000. And so when it's not a tax season, why does the public need to have the town hall open 5 days a week?
When it's not a tax season, we do try to, once we get our work caught up, as long as nothing's going on, as long as town hall's not busy, we try to go home. You know, we're like, well, you know, it's not busy today, we're not covered up, it's not tax season, you know, you go home early, we'll close up early.
But don't,
and then post
But
it
there's
up.
also agreements.
but
There's
don't
also
send the
agreements.
cops on it, because we need the cops.
Well,
Well,
no,
see,
not that, I don't have any control.
What I'm
over
trying to
it.
say is, you know, when you don't have tax season, and this is position, not person,
Mhm.
what does a cashier do when it's not tax season?
She fields a lot of phone calls. I mean, we get a ton of phone calls. We get a lot of emails and things, emails, faxes, and phone calls from companies that handle the sales of home that call and want to know how much taxes owe, when the bill's gonna go. I mean, it's every day.
So the thing
They
is,
call and
They're not
want
sitting
tax
there twiddling their
information.
thumbs.
No, but just as an example, you know, as we've been beating ourselves in the head with this budget, we've had Miracle doing research, doing that comparison, you know, looking at the population and those tax rates and putting it together for us. So there are things for them to do. Plus, you've got the whole back room that is not in a state of order. And that's, right, that's still something for them to do when they have downtime.
They've also been converting those paper documents to.
so like, you get calls from like
Right.
Remax and, you know, places like that.
escrow places,
What's
yeah.
the name of the
Not-
company?
Not
that calls
Remax,
us every day?
CoreLogic
Yeah,
was one of them, but
They
now
call
they've
us
changed
every day.
names. And they call every 5 minutes.
And they want like facts and records.
Right,
It's not
the
just-
banks call.
But if you have people who aren't citizens of the town, you can let them leave a message, and then you can get back with them on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
Not fair.
You know, we don't need someone at the front desk 5 days a week when we're not collecting water and sewer bills.
You're talking about part-time people. Everybody here is part-time. But everybody is giving more than part-time. Not everything that they're doing, are they sitting there getting paid for. So you want more work in less time. That's basically kind of what I hear.
I want less work.
No,
And
but
less
what you
time.
said the other day was y'all don't get things done in a timely manner. So you want a website, you want that stuff uploaded. You're not gonna get more work in less time. So those things that you think are not getting done because everybody's twiddling their thumbs, really aren't gonna get done.
Like the clerk, she works odd hours.
She does
Treasurer
work
works odd hours.
And she works few hours. She doesn't work very many hours
Right.
at all.
And I'm saying the time that the office is physically open, I don't believe needs to be 5 days a week.
That's your
Okay.
opinion.
And she said we'd save $7,000 if we cut the hours, and that could be 2 cents off on the real estate tax.
We did that. We
That's
cut
what this
this.
reflects.
Okay, so it's at 43 cents.
No, you have two options. You have 43 and you have 44 and increase the cigarette tax. So we're trying to make a compromise there. We ain't getting what we want. You ain't gonna get what you want. So we kind of try and meet in the
So,
middle.
okay, so the real estate tax, see, this is not from the budget hearing, this is new. The real estate tax is now in this budget being lowered from 45 to 43 cents.
If you pick up that budget and look at it, you have what we originally had in the budget workshop. You have another column that says 2 cents real estate tax reduction, and a third column that says 1 cent tax reduction, which also increases the cigarette stamps.
So why does the 2 cent reduction not include the cigarette increase, but the 1 cent reduction does?
You didn't ask for a cigarette stamp increase.
I did not.
No, we did.
No, what I'm saying is, you said if it decreases by 1 cent, you increase the cigarette tax. If it increases by 2 cents, you don't increase the cigarette tax.
No, I didn't, because that's not what you asked for. You asked to see a budget with a 2 cent decrease.
Okay, and
So that's what
so,
I provided.
okay, so the 2 cent decrease has some spending decreases, and the increases are made up where?
Both of them have spending decreases, the
Okay.
1 cent and the 2 cent. And then we added the increase in the cigarette stamp because we felt like maybe that was the compromise.
And that's
The
the
1 cent
only,
real estate.
that's the only increase is the cigarette stamp.
Yep.
Okay. So you decrease the real estate tax by 2 cents, and then you increase the cigarettes tax, stamp tax, in order to bring it in line with the other towns.
Not the 2 cents, no, because you're looking at everybody else doing increases. The 1 cent and we're decreasing. That was the whole point in doing the 1 cent, so that you see the
Oh, what you're
difference.
saying is, there is no option of decreasing by 2 cents.
No, I'm telling you, it's on there.
Right here.
Okay.
Look at the document
Okay.
that
Yeah, I mean,
you have.
I see, but what I'm
But
saying
would I
is,
say that I would decrease 2 cents over 1 cent? No, I wouldn't. Because we work our butts off here. And somebody said, give till it hurts. We already give till it hurts. You know, Mr. Hall said, I work Monday through Friday, I'm out in the hot sun. We worked. We come here once we got off work. We were here on weekends.
7 days.
I
You
want-
chose this.
I want
No,
to,
we're
to
leaving.
say,
We're
so
leaving.
you're sitting here.
Well,
You chose to run.
I'm trying to
So my
help the town
point
get
is,
these taxes reduced.
these taxes have not increased since Mr. Cawthorn was on council before.
Well, that's where it ought to be now.
Okay.
Well, then we go back to the original budget,
And leave it alone.
because they weren't increased then.
Put the tax on the cigarette, I don't care.
so what you're saying is, okay, I'm getting what you're saying. So the 43 cents is not a viable option, you're saying?
I'm saying that we put the 44 cents in there
Okay.
as a compromise to
And-
try and come together.
And the only increase, if you go to 44 cents,
Is the
is on the
cigarette stamp.
cigarette stamps.
Yep. Plus, we decreased salaries. Street was the only place we didn't decrease anything. We decreased it in the admin for the clerk and the cashier.
Yeah. That's, I mean, if
And,
that's the only change in the budget,
and we decreased some for the police department. That's it.
That's the only
I just
change
felt
in
like
budget.
that was a good compromise.
Medium, yeah.
I mean,
And
anytime.
as
you
much
can-
as I felt like we should raise the business license taxes, because we are half of what everybody else is. For a contractor, for retailers, we are half of what everybody else is. And so as not to put the monkey on the back of the business, smoking is a choice, I did it for years. Cigarettes, not pot, thank you. And I felt like that was an easy compromise.
I mean, I just wanna make clear, what you're saying is we lower the real estate taxes by 1 cent on $100.
Right.
We increase the cigarette tax from 15 to 30, and there's no other changes in taxes and fees.
No,
No increase in wheel tax, no increase in meal tax.
no.
It's the right direction. Yeah. It's the right direction.
I don't think we're there to go as deep as what, you know, even with the 2 cents, we finally have a town that businesses want to be in. We have investors coming into the area that want to put businesses here. And I feel like if we kill ourselves while we're managing to get all that in place, we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Well, I mean, exchanging real estate tax, which is paid for totally by people in the town, for an increase in the cigarette tax, which is paid for by probably mostly people out of town. To me, as someone who lives in the town, that's a good compromise.
Yeah.
So, that's all that changed. That's good.
Well, you're gonna see some numbers, if you compare it to the other, you're gonna see some numbers that shifted, but it was more of a matter of they were not where they needed to be. For example, the insurance was split between the admin, fire, police, and street. So our insurance on our properties and our vehicles last year was $28,000. So we split that up so that it equals out. So you'll see some shifts there, but it's essentially the same. It was just a matter of correcting. And I don't know who wanted to stick a hot poker in their eye more, me, Brittany, or Abby,
True. Hot poker and,
in your eye.
oh,
That our numbers just weren't numbering, and we went back and forth and wiggled and stretched, and it's hard. It was hard.
It is hard.
It was hard. I appreciate it.
you fit into the tight dress. It's good.
Any more discussion? What do we do?
Just move on.
Okay, move on. We've discussed it, and then we vote on it next month, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that covers budget and tax rates in real estate property taxes. Now we go to property, we have to do it next month. Next month, yep. We go to property acquisition. Is there any discussion or maybe a motion on property acquisition?
I would make the motion to purchase the Jaquita Ratliff, Derek Ratliff property that's adjacent to the former People's Bank of Pound. Do I need to include the amount?
Yeah.
At the amount of $43,500.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I second that.
Do we have a second? Any discussion?
The only reason I'm voting for it has nothing to do with the pocket park. It has everything to do with, we're gonna fix the slide. And those Church Street people can get loans, and they can get in and out, and the Methodist Church won't be sliding down that hill.
Yes.
And you have done a good job getting a buyer for the property, so that we can own the alley and make most of our money back. It's dwindled.
I agree.
Okay, any more discussion? Can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Hawthorne,
Yes?
Hall,
Yeah.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
And the motion passes. Next, we go to item 22, which is boundary adjustment. Any discussion or motion?
I have a public hearing on that next month, correct?
We can get a hold of the,
Plat.
surveyor.
Yeah, so I think the stage we're at, just if I may fill everybody in, I guess, real quick, is in order to do the boundary adjustment, we have to have an agreement, public hearing and all that. But before we can do that, I want to make sure that I, the county attorney, agree on what the exact boundary is, because we'll need a plat map or meets and bounds like you would find in deed, to go before the circuit court when we finally petition them to ratify, record it, make it all official. So I want to make sure we have all those ducks in a row before we take any steps as far as voting on anything.
Would you like to move to July?
Do you think, I mean, I'm not sure where you're at in the stage of locating any sort of plat, but I mean, I think July would be
Just be safe?
reasonable, you know.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's just a matter of getting a hold of him, and he's not answering the phone, and he's not
Not
answering
answering
We're
email.
starting for surveyors around here. It's everywhere.
Make a motion, we move the hearing to July
Okay.
on that.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, do we have a second?
Which one of you was that?
Pick one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any more discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Hawthorne,
Yes.
Hall,
Yeah.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
The motion passes. Next item is skill games. Is there any more that would like to be discussed about that?
Is there any,
So yeah, if I could, you were showing me, I believe, some links as well as an email from,
Warfield's office?
I mean, I have the code here in front of me, and basically the issue that has arose with these skill games, and why there's any dispute at all. There was a Hanover General District Court judge here recently who dismissed a criminal action against somebody who was owning skill games, which is a felony, because the machine, I believe it's called the Queen of Virginia machine, if I'm not mistaken. The way it works is you don't insert a coin into it. You have to go to the counter to get credits from the store owner. You go and play the game. You get more store credits. You exchange those store credits for cash. This is very clever because in the code, the way it is written, a skill game and a legal gambling device, it has to have a coin inserted into it. It has to have something inserted into it. That was a crafty legal defense of the defendants in that case in Hanover County, and they won. It's the opinion of the Attorney General, as well as the former Attorney General, Jerry Kilgore, that those types of machines are legal. So the only question that it turns on, its legality, is, as I can tell, whether you're putting a coin into it like a slot machine, or you're going to the store clerk to get some sort of credits. Because these companies are getting pretty crafty as far as how to skirt the law and be able to sell their devices in Virginia, which have the same ill effect. You know,
Yes.
it's no different. It's just one's legal, the other isn't.
So if we were to get the police chief to check into any business that indicated it had skill games, and to see whether or not you had to insert a coin, a dollar bill, or a credit card into that game, and if you have to insert a coin, a dollar bill, or a credit card into that game, then shut them down.
It's more than likely illegal. What would be the best practice for the police would probably be to record the make or model or the type or whatever you want to call it of the machine, what software it's running, who's made it. That way you'd be able to tie it to a specific machine and get more details later through research. And I understand there's some localities I'd be curious to kind of pick their town attorneys' minds about what their police department's doing and proceeding without the Commonwealth's attorney. It sounds like the chief has already talked to the Commonwealth's attorney, and they're in the same stage as I understand they're in as far as the marijuana enforcement, which is we're looking for resources. We're looking for resources to be able to do that. And in the marijuana bus, it might be a little different. I don't want to speak for prosecutors because I'm not a prosecutor, but for the marijuana bus, they need kind of a really coordinated, task force, a strike force, if you will, to be able to make sure there's no destruction of evidence and that they build a solid case, which requires a lot of resources. With the skill games, I mean, if they're there and owned by a business, that business is committing a felony. It's just a matter of who's enforcing it. Obviously, if the chief of police files charges, then it's up to Brett Hall, the attorney's office, and Wise to proceed on those.
That's right, because the county attorney, and then the almost attorney handles all criminal cases for towns.
Right.
It's free.
And so, they'll need to indict those business owners if they want to move forward.
But if they're not willing to do that,
If they're not willing to do that, then I don't know how effective any sort of local action will be. Obviously, police can gather the evidence, they can refer it to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, but, typically you want them on board. But as far as kind of back to the original question of what's legal and what's illegal, there's specific games out there which have been specifically made in order to skirt the law, and are being operated legally in the Commonwealth, at least until there's new legislation. I was trying to look up and see if I could locate the legislation the chief was talking about, to see if there was any changes. I did find they were gonna update, and create a gambling commission that might be more so leading into the regulation of casinos like Bristol. But until the legislature changes the definition to fit these kind of like Queen of Virginia style machines, if the business in question is operating those, I think they're doing so legally.
So that's why convenience stores often have them in the back and seem to be not bothered. But if you have an establishment that's just skill games, then it's probably not store credit, it's probably inserting.
It would have to, I think some investigation from the police would be wise, just to determine what kind of machines these are. I could be able to better advise as to what my opinion on the legality, but your best opinion is gonna come from the Commonwealth's attorney. Because they're the ones who are gonna be indicted.
I can make a motion to add to the list of the suspected pot shops, suspected skill game shops. And he could go investigate it and see what's going on every other week.
So you do, obviously, as the chief will know, there could be some Fourth Amendment concerns in terms of, but if it's a business,
Fourth Amendment.
if you're doing a search or seizure, but, obviously the chief of police will know the difference.
You would have good cause,
In what
because
is lawfully,
you come around the curve and you're almost blinded by lights and going into the ditch.
Well, I mean, if you're
Skill
walking
games.
into a business that's open to the public and looking around, that's obviously legal. But if you're doing anything beyond that, going into back rooms or anything,
No, there's no back room.
But I trust the chief of police to know the difference between a lawful and an unlawful search. So
So I would add,
it's the only
I would make a motion to add suspected skill games to suspected pot shops to the bi-weekly checks. That's what my motion.
Okay, do we have a second to that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a second, any discussion?
I would make a substitute motion to table it until we have additional information from both Kevin as well as the Commonwealth Attorney. I certainly don't want to take on the liability of what could happen there until we know more.
Okay, we have a substitute motion, do we have a second to that substitute motion?
I will second that, because I believe we do need some clarification.
Okay. And is there anything specific council would like clarification on?
What the law says about this.
So I mean, I think the law is fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of which judge you have and how they interpret it. But I mean, I think, just to be clear here, here's the exact language. Skill game means an electronic, computerized, or mechanical contrivance, terminal, machine, or other device that requires the insertion of a coin, currency ticket, token, or similar object to operate and play a game. So that's where the act of inserting an object into the game, that's where the district court in Hanover turned its decision on. They said, well, this game specifically, this Queen of Virginia game, you do not have to insert anything into it, so it cannot fit within the definition of the code. Now, you take that up with Judge Johnson here in Wise County or another judge, they might have a different opinion. The law is something which is subject to interpretation by our courts, but.
So is this the newest law?
This is the active law right now. I cannot locate any sort of new change to this exact 18.2-325, which defines these things. But we're not up to July 1st yet, so I believe there is a bill out there to create a gambling commission, and I could certainly look into that more for the council to make sure we're fully aware of what's on the agenda for
Well, I think,
passage in July
I mean,
first.
if
It's
you-
up to young people, so you can veto it.
you walk around a public shop and you see a place where you insert dollar bills, credit cards, coins, that's illegal. I mean, I don't think we need to study this anymore. I think it's pretty clear. And if they're,
Because that is the law now.
if they're trading for fuzzy bears in the corner or something, I mean, that's legal. But if they're trading for money, then that's illegal. It's clear. We don't need to study this. We don't need to study it at all. If they're inserting money into that machine, it's illegal.
Call for the rule.
Hmm?
It's all call for the rule.
So-
Call for the vote.
Okay, should call the question.
Let's clarify the
Question, thank you.
substitute motion. Whoever's saying this
The
word.
substitute motion is to table this table it till next month until looking into it further through the attorney. Is that correct?
And so that Chris can speak further with the Commonwealth attorney.
Okay.
There's the substitute motion. We had a second. Okay. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Hawthorne?
You might want to clarify, at this point, you are taking a vote
Yes.
to call for the question.
Oh,
Can I call the question? Can I legally call the question?
Does anybody object to it?
Does anybody object to the vote on the substitute motion? Okay, so can we have a roll call vote, please, for the substitute motion?
Hawthorne?
it's pretty clear. We don't need to study it. No.
Hall?
No.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Mullins?
Yes.
Powers?
I've changed my mind, I'll say no.
Okay. Now do we vote on the normal motion? Okay, can we have any more discussion on the original motion? None being, we will have a roll call vote
If you
on.
can read the motion.
Yeah. Okay. Can you read the motion, please?
Okay, so the motion we're voting on now is the motion to add suspected skill games to the chief of police's bi-weekly schedule.
Okay. Can we have a roll call vote of that, please?
Hawthorne?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Kennedy?
No.
Mullins?
No.
Powers?
Yes.
And the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is business license / fee. Do we have any discussion on that?
There was someone came to me and just was asking about the legality of how we do business licenses and business taxes in town. And maybe you could look into that and just see,
How do they mean?
I don't know, someone just wanted me to ask, how do you collect them and, you know, does it match up with the Code of Virginia?
What does it match up with the code of
Who
Virginia?
does it match up with the
Oh,
Code of
does it?
Virginia?
Okay. Yeah, the towns are authorized to exact a beat poll tax, which is through our beat poll ordinance, which we don't need to amend from what I understand of our tax discussion. So that ordinance is still on file and it explains, basically the way it works is it taxes you based on how much business you do. And depending on what kind of business you're in, and some businesses are exempt, some are not, but it's all laid out in the ordinance in terms of, their ordinance is pretty standard and basically taken from the Code of Virginia, more or less, because it basically, being in the kind of state we're in that constrains the authority of towns to do certain things, they pretty much lay out what your rates are.
So everything's in compliance with state code.
Yeah.
Is there a motion or any discussion more? Okay, the next item is other business. Is there any other business that the council would like to bring?
If you look in your packet, there is a deed of the easement that was sent by Rise County PSA. This is for an easement in the property adjacent to the old Killen building for the sewer project.
Can you describe where that's at in?
Main Street,
Okay.
Killen building, two-story building down here on the left-hand side of the road.
Okay.
And it's all of its own. If you know where the, old
Ronnie
flood,
Mullins used to keep his back.
he's not gonna know Ronnie Mullins, it's where the old flood gauge thing
It's
is.
like a little tiny building.
Yes, it would be adjacent to that
Okay.
flood gauge building.
Okay. And what is this?
This is the deed of easement for the sewer project.
So this, Amelia's concerns, or this, so I wish I'd have had this a day or two ago. Because I know that Pastor Randy Reagan, Independent Baptist Church, has had some concerns about sewer in the right of way. And I don't know if it's the Lays' concerns or not. I think he was concerned about it going behind the church, wasn't he?
I'm not sure.
In order for them to have done anything on church property, they would have had to have gotten an easement from the church as well.
So, yeah, it would go behind the church property, which, you know, Randy Carter, is he still here?
He'd go get his bus.
Okay. So I think this is, I think we need to wait on this from, just check with the church, and see.
Gordon Scott came by, I was there working on the deck behind the church. And
Okay.
he had there were 4 names of the trustees of the church. There was only one there. I don't know if he signed, and so I don't know if that got agreed to or not, but he did come by.
Don't you think it'd be good to run this by Pastor Randy Reagan and the deacons before we approve it as a council?
I would think so. I don't know why he would object. Did you speak with him about?
Well,
what
his objection
were?
was that if there's a pipe there, that they could not do work on the side of the church. Because it's real tight back
Yes, it
there, and you couldn't get a ladder to do the work on the side of the church.
The pipe would be under the ground though.
Okay, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the first I've seen this map. It's, all I know is this pipe is behind the church, and he was concerned about it being behind the church.
There's one in the river right now behind the church.
That's where he wanted it to stay, in the river, so he could work on back to the church.
Can't stay in the river.
Well, I mean, that may be true, but, I mean, it's the first I've seen of it. I would want him to look at this in the deacons before we approve this map.
I guess my concern is, what would the church property have to do with the town property, because it's down the road? The church would either sign an easement or not for their property, and we would sign an easement or not for our property.
So what are we voting on here, on this map?
Just for the property adjacent to the Killen building.
So not in sectors 36, 35, and 34, or 31, just section 32.
Just,
Yeah.
Okay, just section 32.
The only thing we're voting on is town property. We don't have any, we don't have any jurisdiction or say in what the church would do.
So we're just voting on this one little line.
That one, yeah.
That one little line.
And what is the town getting for doing this allotment?
That it? Should be laid out in the deed. $1, cash in hand.
A dollar.
Good sewer lines that the bass aren't gonna crawl into and get into the sewer. And sewage that's not gonna leak out into the river.
I wish we could get this in the council packet like on Friday before the meeting.
what would be your objection?
I'd just like to think it
So
over.
we can understand it a little better.
Right.
Good. Are you wanting to table it for next month?
The motion to table it till next month.
Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Call Gordon Scott.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote of that, please?
Hawthorne,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Kennedy,
I'll abstain.
Mullins,
No.
Powers.
Yes.
And the motion passes. It is tabled till next month. We will look at this next month. Any other business?
Yeah, there's streetlights out.
Street lights off?
That just has to be reported to AEP. You got the poll numbers?
I can get it.
Yeah, they have to be.
Then we'll get the new lights,
Yeah.
the brighter lights. Good.
When they replace the lights, then they'll replace them with LED, otherwise it's gonna cost us money to do it.
That's good news, that the streetlights are out. As long as we get them replaced.
Okay. The last item on the agenda is public comment. At this time, would anyone from the audience like to get up and address council and the mayor? And please state your name and if you live in or out of town.
Angela Barnett, 11529 Big Fork Road, Town, Virginia, and I'm out of the corporation. My comment is directed to the bridge flag, and I'll refer to last month's meeting about the bridge flag. It became a unnecessary, ridiculous verbal squabble between council members pertaining to the flag, the American flag on the bridge. And so it led to, and I'm not sure which council member ended up saying that they were going to replace the flag, but I waited a good 3 weeks, and I traveled that road on a daily basis on that bridge where that flag flies, and no flag was replaced. So Dawn and I took it upon ourselves to replace the flag.
Thank you.
We did that about a week ago, replaced it, and unfortunately, in the bad storm that we had several days ago that affected the people of Kentucky so devastatingly, the flag came down. And if you look over the bridge, you'll see the flag down there in the creek. So it went a few days, and I bought another flag. And Dawn redid the pole, and we went down there and put another flag up today. So, the flag has been replaced. And, like I say, it was an unnecessary scuffle about it. That was ridiculous. But, in this meeting, I have learned that the VFW is over that flag. So Dawn and I will take it upon ourselves to get in contact with, I would say Ezra Powers is probably the one over the VFW, and we will get in contact with him and let him know. Of course, he lives on that road too and probably passes it as well, but we will let him know that we replaced the flag, and if we need to take it down and let them do what they want to do, we will do that. But for the time being, the flag has been replaced.
Can the original flag be retrieved? Can the original flag be retrieved?
Don says he has an idea of getting that flag, but it is all the way down in the creek, underneath the bridge,
It's in the creek.
Yeah, it's in the creek.
right at the edge,
By golly, we'll get that.
and it came down in the storm.
All right, thank you.
But, you know, we wanted it replaced, so we took it upon ourselves to do that since nobody else did.
Good work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you. If there is someone else from the audience who would like to come up and give a public comment, please state your name and whether you live in or out of town.
Dr. Walter Kraus, 6855 Hurricane Road, Wise. Priorities number 1 and 2, build a wall to keep the Methodist Church from falling down on the buildings along Main Street, the Clintwood side. My wife has a building next door to the one you are buying. We don't need it. She has apartments in there. We don't need the church coming down on, collapsing on, destroying the people's homes and her property. Secondly, clean up all the garbage buildings along the other side of the road, and where possible, create a river walk. And the town or the county is supposed to be getting the sewer line out of the river where it should never have been put. Whoever did that should be in jail. And as I mentioned many times, we have commies running Richmond, city council and mayor. They tore down all the monuments that were erected downtown Richmond. We should bring them up here and make a monument park along the river so we have a tourist
You
attraction.
have to contact the Black History Museum. They've been given to the Black History Museum in Richmond.
Oh, Black History Museum. Ah, humbug.
Bill Burger.
I have no use of Black History Museums. Got too many of those. It is time to de-incorporate pound. Business owners are paying double taxation without representation. We fought a war over not having representation 250 years ago. For those who are not in the know, 2025 is the 250th anniversary of the United States Army, and there's going to be a big celebration on Flag Day, which is June 14th, which is also President Trump's birthday. This fall, there will be celebrations for the 250th birthdays of the Marine Corps and the U.S. Navy. I was in the U.S. Army, that's why I'm mentioning it. This campsite thing we're arguing over needs to be eliminated. It was brought up months ago at the Board of Supervisors meeting, and people crossing private property get to it. No, you do not need to destroy or get on people's private property. You mentioned something about Heritage Days. You never mentioned when that is. Does anybody know when Heritage?
That's this weekend, 22nd,
Oh.
23rd, and 24th.
Okay, Memorial Day, I already got it. When is the Pound Bottom area going to be cleaned up? Is that inside the town limits or is that in the county?
The what?
The Pound Bottom, where all those trailers are.
There are no trailers in Pound Bottom.
Well, the road that goes out to where,
South Fork.
I guess it's South Fork, goes out to where the
Dollar General.
new Bill's business, the 4-lane. They're down there in the ditch on the left.
The majority of that is outside corporate.
Okay, I'll bring this up to Board Supervisors then.
I thank you for your comment. Your time is now expired. You will turn If anyone else from the audience would like to come up and address the council, please state your name and whether you live in or out of the town.
Stacy Carson. I live outside the town, Glade Spring. First, I'd like to say, since I have been mayor before, if you look up the Code of Virginia 58.1-3703, it will tell you what our fees should be for business license. And I believe that I've heard complaints because I think that you have business license at $35 right now, and I believe because of our population that it might be too much. But you could look up that code. Anyway, besides that code, I would like to mention from last month's meeting that it was brought up by Cindy Mullins, who got up during public comment, who is also an employee of the town of Pound, and she had stated Code of Virginia 18.2-417 about slander and libel. I am here tonight to present to any council member that would like to see it because from January from the very beginning when the new council members were here, I tried to send an email to you. I even FOIA'd for everyone's email address, just the business emails addresses. And I was never answered under that FOIA request. And monthly, I put that same request out for a couple of months and still got no response. I have learned at tonight's meeting that Debbie Hale and another landowner, was able to get all of your email addresses. Now, I would find that awfully funny when I have fought so hard to get those email addresses. Why I didn't, because I wanted to send you an email to each and every one of you. So I question that and what happened. So again, I go back to the Code of Virginia that was stated by Cindy Mullins at last month's meeting, and that she is accusing me of slandering her. I also was up here, and Jacob Cantrell got up here after me and stated that I was the one that instigated an altercation on January 21st, 2025. Well, I am here to ask each and every one of the council members and the mayor to go ahead and now view the video footage that took place with Sherry Large. And of course, Cindy won't admit that it was her husband, ex-husband, that threatened Miss Large out here in the hallway before the town meeting actually took place. But then I also have where Cindy Mullins and Jacob Cantrell stood out here, and it can clearly be said that she was waiting for me.
Your time is now expired.
Okay.
Appreciate your comment.
So I have that video tonight if any of you council members would like to see the truth. Transparency, accountability.
Anyone else in the audience, please state your name, whether
Cindy
you live in
Mullins,
or out of the
Pelham, Virginia. I just want you to know, transparency and accountability is coming, and it's coming swiftly. You don't get to defame people. You can state your opinion as such, and you can talk about fact, but you cannot legally defame people in the state of Virginia. Not yet, not now. And yes, I did quote that to you, and I stand behind it. Please view the video. I stand behind what the Virginia State Police said. You lied. You are a liar. You are a liar. A liar.
Would anyone else from the audience like to get up?
I've had enough.
Please state your name and whether you live in or out of the council.
Cindy Vanover, I live in Clintonwood, 5167 Camp Kirkwood. And I am Lieber's mom. And I'm proud of it. I just want to know, do you all know how to read a spreadsheet? Do you? Any of you know how to read a spreadsheet? If you don't know anything about bookkeeping. So, and this has got to be, this meeting right here has got to be an Ann Landers or a Dear Abby thing. And it's a gossip column, is what it is. So, and you all are here to take care of town business, not a bunch of gossip.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else from the audience like to get up and comment? If there is no one else, we will move to that last item, and that is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
You second the motion, agree with it.
Not here. I'm going, yeah.
If we have a second, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Hawthorne,
Yes.
Yes.
Hall, Kennedy,
Yes.
Mullins,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion has adjourned.
Evening, sir.
We got Yeah, right. It's hard to do.
We can't open the meeting, but you're welcome. Anybody wants to hear and read charges against Ms. Carson, you're welcome to listen.
So the first one, so Kevin Dotson.
So I'm gonna serve you these copies, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna serve it first. I'm gonna give you the copies of it, okay? Personal service, that you're gonna be serving on today's day. I'm also
Sit down.
All right. Second one is going to be from a plaintiff of Lieber and Kennedy. Okay. What I'm going to do is it's going to be a personal service. Again, I am Officer Burton. And today's date is 05/20/25. All right. So back to the same rules. So for the served copy, we will keep that, but you got an empty copy right here, same thing, okay? All right, so for the first one, comes down to plaintiff Cindy Mullins by her counsel and moves this honorable court to judge against the defendant in the amount of $50,000 and the compensatory damages of $25,000 in punitive damages. In support of the claim, counsel avers the following. 1, at all times relevant to these proceedings, the act complained of occurred in Wise County, Virginia. Cindy Mullins was and is a resident of the Wise County, Virginia. At all times relevant to these proceedings, Mullins was employed by the town of Pound. At all times relevant to these proceedings, Carson engaged in continued course of conduct of making public false accusations directed at multiple individuals who are affiliated with the government of the town of Pound, including the false accusations directed at Mullins. The actions by Carson in making false accusations directed at Mullins have been malicious. Carson exhibited behaviors consisted with grandiosity and narcissism, including her false belief of her self-importance, her unreasonable high sense of her own importance, her constant need to seek attention, her ease to become upset in the slightest circumstances, or criticism, of her boasting about what she claims are her accomplishments, her overly exaggerated sense of superior intelligence, her false belief that she is free to establish her own rules of conduct, her inability to recognize that her actions are harm others, and her burst of anger directed at others who dare to disagree with her. All right, Carson solicits and encourages others to participate with her in her systematic conduct to attack the plaintiff and others, all to feed and fuel her grandiose and narcissistic psyche. In the early months of 2025, Carson began a systematic attack on Mullins that included false public accusations, criminal conduct, and false public accusations that were intended to damage the reputation of Ms. Mullins. In the early month of 2025, as part of Carson's malicious attacks on Mullins, Carson falsely and maliciously made a complaint to the Wise County Department of Social Services, wherein Carson falsely and maliciously and without any good faith basis alleged that Mullins was guilty of child abuse of her daughter. Upon investigation of the Wise County Department of Social Services, the allegations made by Carson were unfounded. To the public communications of the criminal conduct by Carson is actionable pursuant to the common law of Virginia pursuant to 8.01-45. The communications of child abuse by Carson by the Wise County Department of Social Services is actionable because Carson made the allegations with malice and with bad faith. As directed and proximate result of conduct of Carson's alleged above Mullins has suffered humiliation, embarrassment, and personal injuries. The plaintiff seeks compensatory damages in the amount of $50,000 as a proximate cause of defendant's conduct. Alright. The plaintiff seeks punitive damage in the amount of $25,000 for the malice actions by Carson. Wherefore, plaintiff by counsel demands judgment against Stacy A. Carson in the amount of $50,000 in compensatory damages and $25,000 in punitive damages, with prejudgment interest from May 2nd, 2025, and her taxable cost. Respectfully submitted, Cindy Mullins by counsel. All right. So these are going to be your copies.
Thank you.
All right. And the next one is going to be Lieber and Kennedy. As the plaintiff and the defendant, you, Miss Stacy Carson, identified as the individual who stood up there and advised that you were Stacy Carson, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So this is going to be our copy. Comes now the plaintiff, Lieber and Kennedy, by her counsel, and moves this honorable court for a judgment against the defendant in the amount of $50,000 in compensatory damages and $25,000 in punitive damages. All right. In support of the claim, counsel avers the following. Number one, at all times relevant to these proceedings, the acts complained of occurred in Wise County, Virginia. Lieber and Kennedy was and is a resident of Wise County, Virginia, and serves a member of the town council in the pound of Virginia. At all times relevant to these proceedings, Carson engaged in a continued course of conduct of making public false accusations directed at multiple individuals who are affiliated with the government in the town of Pound, including false accusations directed at Kennedy. These actions by Carson in making false accusations directed at Kennedy have been malice and in reckless disregard for the truth. Carson exhibited behaviors consistent with grandiosity and narcissism, including her false belief for her self-importance, her unreasonably high sense of her own importance, her constant need to seek attention, her ease to become upset at the slightest criticism of her boasting about what she claims are her accomplishments over her overly exaggerated sense of superior intelligence. Her false belief that she is free to establish her own rules of conduct, her inability to recognize that her actions are harm to others, and her burst of anger are directed at others who dare to disagree with her. Carson solicits and encourages others to participate with her in her systematic conduct to attack the plaintiff and others, all to feed her fuel and grandiose narcissistic psyche. In the early months of 2025, Carson began a systematic attack upon Kennedy that included false public accusations of criminal conduct and false public accusations that were intended to damage Miss Kennedy's reputation. The public communication of the criminal conduct by Carson is actionable pursuant to the common law of Virginia pursuant to 8.01-45. As directed and proximate result of the conduct, Carson alleged above Kennedy has suffered humiliation, embarrassment, and personal injuries. The plaintiff seeks compensatory damages in the amount of $50,000 as a proximate cause of the defendant's misconduct. The plaintiff seeks punitive damages in the amount of $25,000 for the malice and reckless action by Carson. Wherefore, plaintiff by counsel demands judgment against Stacy A. Carson, being you, in the amount of $50,000 in compensatory damages and $25,000 in punitive damages, with prejudgment and interest from May 2nd, 2025, and her taxable cost. All right, do you have any questions?
No.
All right,
When is the trial?
so,
Or when am I due in court?
She has 21 days to respond to the court.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome, Stacy.
all right, so just get in contact with the courthouse, but these are your papers and your copies.
I appreciate it, thank you. Sorry that's how you had to meet me.
That's perfectly fine,
You
man.
wouldn't get any